Yeah, say. Yeah. And I think as an overview, you would put it in these terms. You would say, there are some countries that produce a lot of oil, but other countries produce much less, but consume a lot of oil. Is it important to say the countries that consume a lot of oil are advanced economies? That's an opinion. It's not important.
It's not important.
It's not important. But you could say, if you cover everything else, you might mention it at the end. It's not important. You don't have to mention it. But if you did mention it, it's okay. But don't write an essay about that. We'll get rid of that. We don't want that. That's what I'm missing out on by not being in Melbourne. So questions. Did they write an introduction? Here's the essay. Did they write an introduction? Did they write a rounding off statement? Here, what band would you give? And how could the candidate improve? All right, I'll give you 5 minutes. Have a look. What band would you give for task achievement, the first criterion? 4, 5, 6, 7? 7?
5,
6.
5?
5.
It's a 5. Why 5?
It didn't clarify the overview.
Yeah?
Very evident grammatical mistakes and the first in
Yeah, we're not looking at grammar yet. We're looking at task achievement, the first column here. So what do you think? Yeah?
Unclear overview.
Sorry. Yeah, the overview is not, there's an attempt at the end to give an overview, but it is not very clear. And he doesn't really include enough of the other features.
It didn't actually support his
Yeah.
data.
So here, it's a reasonable summary
Copies
of
from
most of the features, but not all of the features. And he doesn't really produce much of an overview. So he gets a 5 for that. What about for the second criterion, the coherence and cohesion? Is it logical?
not logical.
What do you give him? 4, 5, 6, 7? 4?
It's really hard to follow.
5?
5.5.
You don't, the examiner doesn't give a 0.5 here. That's only at the end. The examiner will, he gets a 6.
I guess 5.5.
Because the paragraphing is okay. That first two lines is a paragraph. Then the second paragraph there, beginning, it is obvious. And then another place, sorry? Yeah. I would recommend that you tell your students to leave a line between paragraphs to make it clear. This person has indented the first line, which is good enough. That's quite clear, I think. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, and it's quite logically organized, and there are some good words like together with, it is obvious that,
But together with was in the topics. Keep topics.
respectively. Another place that is, well, it's bad grammar there. Regions that are not mentioned above, overall.
Or more acronym.
So that's enough for a 6, okay? Maybe he could use better linkers in the middle section. Maybe he could use these linking devices better. What about the third criterion, lexical resource on page 21 there, that column? What are you going to give him? 4, 5, 6, 7?
6.
I'll give him 5.5.
You can't give a 0.5. You give a just a whole number. It's a 6, in fact. His lexical resource is a 6. his spelling is okay, but limited. But if you look at a 6, if you look at a band 6, uses a sufficient range of uses an adequate range of vocabulary, attempts to use less common vocabulary with some inaccuracy, makes some errors in spelling, but they don't impede communication. So that's a band 6. And finally, for his grammar, what does he get?
5.
He does get a, no, sorry, he doesn't. He gets a 6 for that as well. So at a band 6, you can make some errors. Look, a band 6 makes some errors in grammar and punctuation, but they rarely reduce communication. The final paragraph is not good. Okay? But that's good enough for a 5.5. What have I done with my clicker? I have to go home now. I can't find my clicker. Did you
It's in
take
the
it?
pocket of your jacket.
Is it?
Your left jacket.
I think I left
It doesn't matter. Oh, it will appear soon. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I hit it.
I didn't look at
So he does, especially at the end, it's not very good. Okay? But overall, it's enough to get a 5.5. So he gets a 5, and then he gets a 6, and then he gets a 6, and then he gets a 6.
But the average is 5.75. It should be 6. No?
It's a 5.5. It's rounded down.
Because of the task achievement?
Because of the task achievement, it becomes a 5.5.
That's the most important assessment, right?
No, they're all 25%, but each task is rounded down, and the overall score for speaking, listening, reading, and writing is rounded up. So, but for each of these tasks, it's rounded down. Yeah.
But does the average, like for example, if you get 5.75, does that come down to 5.5 or 6?
5.5.
But usually it isn't.
Usually it is.
It should be like 5.7 is fine to get down to
It's for all 4
5.5.
modules, right? But when it's within the task, it goes down. Is it?
Yep. In the task, each
It's
task
confusing, right?
is rounded down. Okay, you don't have to worry about that too much, I don't think. So how to improve? This person needs to spend more time looking at graphs and selecting the data. They need to spend some time thinking, well, what are the important things that I should mention here? They need to be able to work out what is an overall overview. What's a good summary of the main features here? In terms of their lexical resource and their grammatical range and accuracy, they need to work out how to use the correct part of speech and word order and the use of passive as well. So those things, as a teacher, you would be trying to help them with those things. All right, let's look at, we're running out of time, so let's skip. You can take this home and look at it, but let's skip over to, we'll stay with this, general training. Look at the, no, actually we won't do that, yes, we won't look at that one. Yeah. Okay, so you're looking at sample 3 now in your booklet. It's the task about public transport in your area. So here, is this a formal letter or is it an informal letter? It's a formal letter, right? You're writing to the manager of the company. They have to describe the problems, they have to explain about how the problems affect the public, and they have to suggest changes. They have to do 3 things here. Do they do those 3 things? Okay, let's do the same. What band are you going to give to this person? This is task 1, general training.
6.5.
4.
Very good.
4.
4? Really? Now remember, we're looking at that letter. We're looking at that, yes? Angry. Yes. Well, you would be angry. What are you going to give it? What's yours? Yeah. Oh, the whole 6666? Okay, you discuss. But what do you think is the strongest part? Is it which criteria is strong? What about the tone? That's right. So the tone is wrong. It's not very wrong, it's a little wrong. If you look at the descriptors, it says there may be inconsistencies in tone. Inconsistent. You could have, but is that as long as he's consistent? I mean, as long as he's consistently angry, like my wife, then you would be, it's okay. But here the problem is his inconsistency. High. Okay, so have you read this letter? What do you think is what is good about this letter? What do you think is the strong part?
They represent all the ideas very clearly.
Okay, so what criterion is that? Is it?
No. Cohesion, coherence.
Yes, I agree with you. Coherence and cohesion is quite good because it's logically structured. That first little introduction, the second paragraph, the third paragraph, and that final thanks for your attention. What is not so good? The tone, very good. So if you look at the descriptors, if you look at the assessment criteria here at band 6, it says that inconsistencies in tone, that means it gets a 6 for that first criterion, but it gets a 7 for the next criterion because it's logically organized and it does use a range of cohesive devices. For instance, so I suggest, please notify, if, then. Is the grammar as good as the lexical resource?
No.
Which is stronger?
Lexical
The lexical
resource.
resource is stronger. The lexical resource gets a 7, but the grammar gets a 6. So this guy gets a 6 776. And that means that it's an overall
6.5.
6.5.
6.5. Very good. So basically the purpose is clear, that's good, but the tone is not so strong. The tone and register. He needs to work on that. He could extend what is written. It's a relatively short answer. Some of the grammatical errors, like articles, need to be improved. Okay, so let's look now at the next. And stop me if you want to, if you've got any questions. Let's look at only one more, and that is the task, which is task 2. Before we look at the script, just very quickly, with the task 2, the main features that the main things that you're looking at is that in task response, does the person understand the task? Have they planned it so that it proceeds logically? Are they able to use cohesive devices, linking words and paragraphs? And are they using a correct tone in general training, task 1? General training, task 1 is the only place where we talk about tone. And in terms of grammar and vocabulary, all of those things, articles, prepositions, collocations, adjectives, spelling and punctuation, etc. So, if you look at your booklet, if you look at the task 2 where it says on page number, it doesn't have a page number. Many people, sample number 6, okay? Many people say that cooking and eating at home is better for the individual and the family than eating out in restaurants. So that's the sample number 6. Have a look at that, and remember now you're looking at the assessment criteria for task 2. So you're going to page 22 to look at the assessment criteria.